So now that we've learned that data can be used for statistics, we know that the mean and the median describe the center. Standard deviation and quartiles describe spread. You can use the shape of the distribution to choose the most appropriate statistics to describe the center and spread of the data. So when we have a symmetric distribution like this one, notice that the mean is right there near the center or at the center of the distribution. And not only is the mean, but the median, I'm going to write that in there real quick, the median is also going to be right there along with the mean. A lot of times they're the exact same number or they're going to be very close to each other. However, when you have skewed distribution, outliers can have a strong effect on the mean of a data set, while the median is less affected. So when a distribution is skewed, the mean lies away from the majority of the data towards the tail, and the median is less affected and stays near the majority of the data. So notice that the mean and the median on both the negatively and the positively skewed distributions are going to be away from each other. So when we're trying to determine what the center of data is and the spread of the data, usually what we do is look at a distribution. And if the distribution is relatively symmetric, the mean and the standard deviation are going to be used. But if the distribution is skewed or has outliers, we're going to use the 5-number summary. So describe the center and data of the spread of the data using either the mean and the standard deviation or the 5-number summary. Justify your choice by constructing a histogram of the data. So we're going to take this data and we are going to create a histogram by going to our easy histogram maker. So I've already typed in my data from that list. So if you want to do that, you should go back and pause the video and type in the data yourself, but I'm going to go ahead and hit generate. And there we go. So you can see that looks like we might have some skewed data there. Looks like it might be skewed a little bit to the right. I see that tall bar to the left. We better check some other classes. I'm going to change that to a 7, see what happens. When I go to 7, well, when I go to a 7, it is a little bit less skewed. I do have that 1 that kind of is off to the right there, but the rest of the data looks very, very symmetrical. If you don't look at that 1 data, that 1 there at the far right, looks relatively symmetrical. Let's check a 9 just to be sure. So I'll add the histogram with a 9, and again, it is mostly symmetrical. It's definitely not a perfectly symmetrical set of data, but I'm going to say that this is a symmetrical set of data. Being symmetrical, that we are going to use the mean and the standard deviation to describe the center and the spread. So with this, if I look right at the top, it tells me the mean is 26.083333. We can go ahead and change that to call that 26.1 if we want to round it. Standard deviation is approximately 7.2. So to answer this question, and we've already seen the histogram, we would say that the mean was about 26.1, and the standard deviation, and I'll use the small letter theta to represent that, is about 7.2. 3 at the bottom is the same directions. Describe the center and the spread of the data using the mean and standard deviation of the 5-number summary. Justify your choice by creating a histogram for the data. So we will create a histogram for this set of data and determine what the center and the spread is going to be. So I've gone back to the EC histogram maker and I've already typed in the data for that. So I will hit generate. And I think there's no doubt about this one. I see 7 bars there, and it is definitely skewed to the left. That tall bar is about 2 bars over from the center. And I'm willing to bet even if I go to a 9-class histogram, it's going to be similar to that. It's not nearly as that stair step as that 7 one was, the 7-bar ones, but the tall bar is definitely not the middle interval. It's not between the 16 and 20. So I would definitely say that this is skewed to the left. This being skewed to the left, we are going to have to use the 5-number summary. And the problem with the Easy Histogram Maker is that it does not do a 5-number summary automatically. It just mainly does the mean and the standard deviation with some other data that we'll talk about later and some that we probably won't talk about. But in order to get the 5-number summary, we really need to go to the box plot generator. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy my data so I don't have to type it in again. So let me copy all that data. It is a lot of data to copy. And I go to my box plot generator and I paste it into here. I submit the data. And there you can see that it is definitely skewed to the left. If you remember that the smaller numbers are on the bottom of this box plot, skewed to the left. And if we look over to the left side, it actually tells us our 5-number summary. It doesn't tell us in the particular order that we would like to write this 5-number summary, but it does tell us that the smallest number, the minimum, is 2. The first quartile is 17.5. The median is 24. The third quartile is 26. And the maximum is 32. So when we write our 5-number summary, that's the order in which we would like to write the 5-number summary. So I would go back to the page that I have here, and I'm going to use a 5-number summary. So I would write it in as 2, 17.5, 24, 26, 32, and I'm using that because it is skewed data. As we just saw, we can use a box and whisker plot in order to determine if data is skewed, and we can also determine if it's symmetrical as well. The money raised per student in Mr. Bulanda's 5th period class is shown. Describe the center and spread of the data using either the mean and standard deviation or the 5-number summary. Justify your choice by creating a box and whisker plot for the data. So you can see that we've got a lot of data to put in for the money raised per student in dollars, and we're going to go to the box and whisker plot, and we're going to type it into that. And I've already typed in the data, so I will submit it. And you can see here we have a very symmetric box and whisker plot. We do have one tiny outlier there at 95, but it's really not affecting the box and whisker plot itself. So being a symmetric box and whisker, we should be using the mean and the standard deviation in order to describe the center and the spread. So the box and whisker plot does have mean and standard deviation calculators built in. They're the hyperlinks on the left side. So to find the mean, I'll just click on the mean button. And there we go. You can see we have an arithmetic mean of 36.7. Now, this is a question dealing with dollars, so we would not say $36.7. We would write that as $36.70. I can also find the standard deviation by hitting the standard deviation button. And you can see the standard deviation, if we do that in dollars and cents, is about $18.58. So I could write my answer back on my question. I would say the standard deviation, again, I'll use the small letter theta, is $18.58. And the mean, which is usually X bar, is $36.70.